Yes, good to go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good day to everyone.
very good afternoon.
Yes, today
Sorry.
we are here with a very well-known, supportive personality to various families across the country as well as out of India. It's Mr. Jitendra P.S. Solanki, who is basically a financial planner and an expert who is passionate about the topic about children with special needs, and he has supported more than say 2000 families to plan, as to what after them, because most of the families, the moment we have a child with special needs, the main question comes is after us what. And then is the main dilemma that we require a proper genuine advice from a professional, in a win-win situation, kind of like, as to how are we going to plan further on, so that even if we are not there, how our love for our child is being taken care of in terms of meeting the financial needs. Having said that, Mr. Jitendra is a SEBI registered investment advisor. He's based out of Ghaziabad, UP, and he has respected professional designations of certified financial planner and chartered trust and estate planner as well. And he has his own organizations in the name of Special Needs Estate Planning Private Limited. So today, Mr. Jitendra is going to discuss a very important topic as to how to ensure our children with special needs, how they need to be cared for life. Mr. Jitendra is going to give us a bit of insight on that, so that all of us parents who are joined in, and probably the relatives of special need children also, because when we take care of special need child, it's not only the parents, it's the supportive relatives, the community. Everyone needs to be very aware to create the kind of awareness in society. So over to you, Mr. Jitendra.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian, and welcome to you all to this presentation. So I'll be discussing on special needs planning, how you can care for your special need child care. So there are two important aspects in your life when it's come to planning for your special need child. One is the financial and one is the legal. Now, both these aspects are important, and without planning, either of these, the planning would be incomplete, I would say. So, okay, though Brian has given a brief introduction, but just to recap that. So, my name is Jitendra Solanki. I am founder of Plan Special Needs and director of Special Needs Estate Planners Private Limited. That's an organization we formed specifically catering to the legal aspect of special children families. Uh, I'm also the author of this book, Financial Planning for Families Having Children with Special Needs. Dr. Shweta Solanki, she is the second director with our organization, and she is a chief consultant also. She is a disability expert with 15 years experience. And Shilpa Wag is also a consultant and chief knowledge officer at our organization. So that's a small organization we have, and we do have other people from legal, from medical, who form a team advising special children families on their financial and legal aspect. So what is the today's session about? So we'll understand some aspects. So we'll understand child life stages. That's the basics of planning for your special child future. Five building blocks of special need planning. Estate planning tools. What are the tools you require as a family to plan for your child future? The SNEP ecosystem. So special need estate planners, we uh, thrive on this ecosystem to provide a future for the special need child care even after you. So we're going to discuss a bit on that, and 10 golden rules of planning. So now this is a life stage. When I say a life stage, and why this life, understanding this life stage is important, because when you are planning for your child, the most important is that what should I plan, when should I start, and what is going to come up in the future. Now the best way we found out is to that if you can draw a timeline of your child life stages, then it's become a basics of all your planning. Like this we did, so you will also find in my book. So what we did is we divided this life stages of child into 5 stages. Stage 1 is the minority, when the child is minor. Stage 2 is adult, living at home, so from minority when the child moves to an adult phase. Stage 3, adult external living environment, that is a child shifted to a residential care. Stage 4 is the first parent death. Stage 5 is the second parent death. And then the child lifetime. Now, why this life stages is important? Because at each of these life stage, you can clearly identify what are the issues you need to address: personal side, financial, the legal. So, for example, when the child is in minority phase, then you are more focused toward the diagnosis, early intervention, counseling, the therapies, special education, special assessment. Now when the child is moving from minority to an adult phase, then there is a changes in the service support that will be required. The legal guardianship issue will come up when the child turns 18. The residential needs will have to be decided. When the child move to a residential care, then the child adaptability has to be answered. The residential facilities, what kind of facilities you require, what are there, that has to be answered. The financial support has to be looked at. This is also the phase when your own retirement as a parent would come in. So how you should plan for your retirement? You might have to relocate. Now the first, at the death of any parent, then the will execution will have to be addressed. If the trust is formed, the trust administration will have to be look at how the trust is going to be funded, or how the care of the child will be funded. Now that will be looked at. All the services with for the child care, those have to be relooked at. And similarly, that at the second parent death, the probate of the will come in again. All the financial administration will move to the trust if the trust is formed, or to the legal guardian if the legal guardian is appointed. The legacy distribution after the child lifetime, that has to be decided. So at each of these child life stages, there are issues to be addressed: personal, financial, legal. So when you draw a timeline, you actually come to know that this is where I stand today. So you might be at stage 2, the child is already an adult. So when you have this timeline, you know there are 3 life stages coming in. You can draw the timeline, you can draw the issues, and you can then plan it out today. So for example, when the child is moved to an adult, there is a will, there is a trust, there is your own retirement will come in the future, so you can plan accordingly. And as I said, this can be the basis of all your planning. So when most of the parents ask me, when should I plan and how should I plan, and I always give them this basics, that first draw a timeline of your child life stages to understand what are the issues you need to address in the future. And when you have this timeline, you can address them more efficiently. So what is the financial life plan of for the family having a special need child? Look at so there are 3 planning points. One, plan for the special need child future. So you have to plan for the child future. You have to plan for the sibling future. If there is a sibling, you have to plan for the future, and plus you have to plan for your parents' retirement, your own retirement. Generally, we say that when you have to plan for your family, you are actually planning for 2 generations, one for yourself and one for your special child lifetime. Now, what is special needs planning comprises of? Why I'm discussing is special needs planning, because it is vast, and there are financial aspect to be addressed, there are legal aspect to be addressed, and both of these have to be looked in detail. Now, a special needs planning, it's a roadmap. You draw a roadmap where traditional planning is like, planning for your car, house, your own retirement. You integrate your traditional planning, your planning goals with the unique requirement of your family, that is of your special need child. Why I say unique requirement? Because his issues are different from a traditional family. And when you draw this roadmap, then you complete the planning for your family future. It's an effective financial and legal strategy. Both have to be efficient and both have to be integrated to ensure that not only yours requirement but child requirement is also addressed along with your requirement. Now when I say a legal strategy for your own requirement, for example, when you move to an old age, okay, now you have moved to a stage and you are incapacitated. Now who is going to look after finances? That is your requirement. Along with that, you integrate the child requirement. Who's going to manage the child affairs? So like this, both financial and legal strategy both have to be efficient, effective, and then integrated to get a comprehensive plan for your family. Formation of will, trust, guardianship, these are the three major elements of any family who have got a special need child to care. And yes, lastly, define your vision for your loved one's life. Now for any parent, you have a vision how your child should be care for. You have a vision for your child life, and that vision has to be defined, it has to be communicated, then only your child would be care in the same manner. And when you do a special needs planning, when you do a planning for your family, then you also define this vision for your child. So we'll discuss 5 building blocks which are required to complete your planning. First is preparing a budget, estimating lifetime cost, setting goals, setting the safety net for your child, and your own retirement planning. So preparing a budget. So when you prepare a budget, and now every household, every family prepares a budget. Whenever how much is your income, how much is your savings, but that is a family budget you prepare. Now what you should do when you have a special need child, and we always thrust on that you create a separate budget for your special needs child. How you can create that separate budget? I'm going to show you this chart. So there is a separate budget sheet which is prepared for the child, and you integrate that with your family budget to come out for a comprehensive budgeting for your child. Include all probable expenses, support equipment costs. So when you are preparing a budget, the budgeting sheet, you will also find in my book. I'll show it here also. And all probable expenses you should cover. If you are creating budget for the first time, you will start with some assumptions and monitor expenses for few months to bring accuracy in expenses. The similar way you do for your own house, for your complete family, similarly you do for your special needs child. But creating separate budget for your
Sir, your network is
child is
can't hear you
important.
properly.
I'll come to the second building block phase. The finances change. You have to accommodate the planning. Okay.
Sir, Jitendra sir,
Now it's clear.
you're okay. Yeah, he's gone out of the meeting. He's back.
Yeah, this is a practical situations in webinars, instability of network, we can't predict.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Jitendra.
Okay, but you can see the screen also.
No. Please share it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Your video is off. That's okay. I mean,
I can see everything. I don't know why. I'm stopping my video so that things can be
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
Okay. I'll put off my video. Okay. That will be
Yes. Yeah.
good. Okay.
No, but share, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, fine. So the second building block is estimating lifetime cost. How do you estimate the lifetime cost? So I'll show you with a case study. Now, why this is important? Because if you have to answer a question that what is the money I require for my child care, which will be left to the legal guardian or to the trustees to manage it, and how to identify the funds required. So I take a small case study, and with this we will identify the ways and means. So Vicky, 5 years old, is a special need child. Gaurav wished to estimate corpus required for lifetime care. We assume that life expectancy for Vicky is 70 years, average inflation of 7%, and a growth of 8% on corpus. This is a hypothetical case study we have taken. Now, Vicky expenses. Now, this is a expense chart. We prepared for the special child, and if you see the heading, this is only for the special child. This is not the household budget, but this is only for special child expenses, the living expenses, day-to-day care assistant, personal need, any cost for schooling, special equipment, healthcare, any premiums. So like this, you can prepare a separate chart. So for in this case study, if it is 38,500, so 4.62 lakh annually is the expenses which Gaurav is looking at to fund for. Now there are two ways to identify corpus. One is perpetual annuity, and second is the inflation adjusted. Perpetual annuity is simple, that if 4.62 lakh per annum has to be generated for the lifelong for the special child, and what is the corpus required. So in this case study, if the corpus can generate a 5% return or an interest, you can say the 92 lakh corpus is required today. Now this is the most easiest method. Simply put this money in FD, generate a 5% return interest for the lifelong, and you will generate an income. But it has its pros and cons. Now it's the easiest method, as we have seen, but inflation is not factored in. The monthly expense of 38,500 today would probably increase after 5 years. Now, good to treat this as a minimum corpus required. So when you are taking this method, treat it as this is the bare minimum you require for your child. Anything less than this, the financials is going to be incomplete. This is the bare minimum money you have to provide for. And if you follow this method, it needs a review every 3-4 years. Now, where does this method help? Because inflation adjusted corpuses are much higher, but for you it's a start. So when you are making a start and you want to identify a amount of money you need to need for your child, then this is the method you can follow. It just helps you to avoid facing a very huge shortfall. Okay, but this is the actual method, or this is the actual corpus Gaurav required. Now this is an inflation factored in. We have taken a 7%. We are planning a child life of 70 years. The corpus required is 2.38 crore. Now this is the actual corpus required. So last method gives you 94 lakh. This method gives you 2.38 crore. Now this is the actual. The previous one is the bare minimum. You need to have money in between this. Anything less than perpetual annuity method, you will have a huge shortfall. So factors to consider: life expectancy can be higher or lower, difficult to estimate accurate expenses, especially when the child is in minority phase. Inflation is always higher because there are healthcare expenses involved. Investment returns are variable, so how you can assume, but these are long-term planning you have to do. Now, when you are identifying this is where the budgeting helps you, the separate budgeting you need. Third building block is setting goals. How do you set goals with a special child? Now, in our normal life, how do we set goals? कि कार 2 साल में लेनी है शॉर्ट टर्म, हाउस 5 साल में लेना है मीडियम टर्म गोल हो गया, चाइल्ड एजुकेशन मैरिज लॉन्ग टर्म हो गया. How do you set goal with special child? Immediate expenses, make it short term. Expenses up to 5 to 7 years, medium term. Anything beyond 7 years, make it long term. Add any additional support. Now this way you will be able to set goals. Why setting goal is important? Because your investment avenue will be based on when the goal is required, when the goal has to be achieved. And I draw this timeline everywhere. Every planning we do, this is the basis of how you can set goals for your special needs child. Fourth building block is safety net. How do you provide a safety net? And health insurance has become the topmost priority. So we used to say life, health, and disability. Now we say health, life, and disability. And as a parent, you need to cover yourself adequately, not to depend only on employer insurance. Insurance for special needs child, limitations are there, though it has started in a good way. So there are insurances available now. If not adequate, you need to create a health fund. So health insurance is very, very important today. And we have seen, during the COVID time, the importance of having a health insurance. The second importance is life insurance. Now, identify your actual financial requirement. Don't go on thumb rules, 10 times of income or 20 times of income. You need to have actual requirement. It should cover your child lifetime care cost. Long-term planning we can do. We can accumulate asset in 30 years, 40 years. What happens today? How will you fund today if something happens to the parent, and where this money would come from, because you don't have those assets available. And the life insurance is the most important tool. Both parents need life insurance cover. Now, why do you take a life insurance? For any financial loss you have due to any unforeseen happening happens in the family, and both parents need life insurance cover, be it housewife, be it a working person. Avail only term insurance. I'm not talking for any other insurance, because that will be out of your range, out of the budgets. Avail only term insurance, where you get the highest coverage with lowest premium. Specific policies not available today. And this is an important estate for instant funding of the trust after you. Do remember, life insurance is one of the important estate planning tool where instant funding can happen. So suppose I have accumulate asset of, so I just take the case study. Gaurav need 2.38 crore. He had only 1 crore. Where he can get additional 1.38 crore today if something happens to the Gaurav today? Now that's the life insurance can fund that gap. And that's why we say that it's a very important estate planning tool also. How do you identify coverage? So immediate corpus required. What is the immediate corpus required today? Emergency reserves, loans and liabilities, lifetime income, regular expenses, fees for guardianship, legal, other professional, which is going to come in the future, any additional expenses, and then the future requirement, child care for older age, retirement expenses for surviving spouse, and if sibling, then expenses for his education, marriage. This is the way to identify your life insurance coverage, then just to rely on the thumb rule, 10 times or 20 times of your income. And this should be done when you want to take a life insurance for protection of your family. Disability insurance also have a role. Now, this is a disability insurance is disability of the parents, that if there is a temporary or permanently disability, then how financial requirement will be fulfilled. Term insurance will not come into picture. But if income stops, if there is a permanent disability, income stops, then where this requirement can be fulfilled. And disability insurance you have in India through accidental insurance policies, you get disability insurance, and this is also on priority. So life, health, and disability, these are the topmost safety net which you should, as a family, as a parent of a special child, should be creating. Other insurances, wherever you feel they can be financial loss, home, car, business, whatever you feel, it should be covered with adequate insurances. Now, investment planning, the way we do insurance, similarly way investment planning should be done. Any investment should be done with a proper planning, not an ad hoc investment. So what are your existing investment? What is your risk appetite? What is your asset allocation you should create, investment policy? So all this should be taken into consideration when you are deciding for an investment. But largely, any investment should be aligned with the goals. If it is not aligned with the goals, we believe it is not an adequate investment. You would be focusing on something else rather than meeting the goal. And when you do have to goal setting, we have discussed, this is the way you can do goal setting, and this is how your investment should be done. Any long-term investment is a long-term has a long-term nature. Any short-term investment, there is a different avenue. So every goal might have a different investment avenue, and that should be done when you align with the goals. And largely, most important one, or we say the way you can do is creating a bucket investment strategy. Have a separate bucket. Bucket one for regular income for first 2 years, bucket two for income requirement for 3 to 5 years. You can have bucket 3 for income requirement from 6 to 10 years, bucket for income requirement in the long term, and bucket 5 for any unexpected planned expenses. And any other bucket you want to create, you can create. This way you are able to identify the exact avenue, the correct avenue, and you would avoid making any investment mistakes. Last building block is retirement planning, and which is more important. And we are, and through news, through channels, through media, we are seeing the importance of retirement planning. And when, as a parent of a special child, when you have to do retirement planning, there are 4 elements to cover: your retirement, special needs dependent expenses, his residential needs, and the savings required. So when you are planning your retirement, look at these factors, identify the corpus needed at retirement. This is important. You will have to identify today what you need money at retirement. The corpus should include your child expenses also, because it might be a life where you won't be working and you will be dependent on the corpus you have created. And that's why it's important that your retirement planning should have both the corpuses. Evaluate probabilities of any shortfall in meeting the retirement goal. Adjust today cash flows if needed. Prepare yourself for more working years. Maximize employer retirement benefit. If you have salaried, you can maximize employer retirement benefit, because those are very important tool of retirement. EPF, gratuity, today NPS. Evaluate the support after retirement. What support you will get after retirement, evaluation of that is important. Evaluate residential needs of the child. Where will the child live? That will decide the amount of expenses you will have to bear for your child or even for yourself, because you might have to relocate to other cities. If you are in metro, you might not be able to meet retirement expenses in metro, so you might relocate. So evaluating residential needs of the child is important. Evaluate probabilities of relocation. So these are elements of retirement. Retirement planning itself has to be a efficient strategy. You need to look at all the factors, and then only you can accumulate the amount of desired corpus for your retirement. Okay, I'll skip this. Now this was on financial planning, and if you have covered these 5 building blocks, I would say you have prepared well on your finances. The other aspect towards planning for your child future is estate planning, and largely we look at answering a question, what after us. Now, what are the estate planning options you have? As a parent, distribute asset to sibling or family member for special need benefit. Gift, bequeath asset to special child managed by the legal guardian. Establish a special need trust, or distribute asset to the institution for benefit of special need child care, probably the residential care. Now, which of these is the most efficient one, most viable one? Depends on your family requirement. Largely, yes, we do advise special need trust, but then you may also bequeath asset to special need child managed by the guardian when there is a sibling. So you need to evaluate these options and then see how should my estate planning should be planned, how should I factor in, because when you identify these options, then only you will be identifying the legal documents which you have to prepare. What are the tools of estate plan? Will, living will, trust, guardianship, letter of intent. These are the 4 important element or tools of estate plan when you are preparing for your family. So when you have to complete your estate plan, when you are answering a question, what after us, identify child residential needs, because that will decide the amount of expenses you will incur. Writing a will or a living will. Appoint future guardian trustees. Create trust for your child. Obtain legal guardianship when necessary for, say, child is 18 years of age. Write a letter of intent. And provision for your old age. What happens in old age? You have make provision for your child. You have created a trust. But what if you reach to a situation where you are incapacitated in the old age? Who will manage the affairs? Because then we have in the legal framework, we have very less provision where you are incapacitated and somebody else can manage or decide on your behalf. So you have to make provision for your old age also. Then only your estate plan is complete. As we say, if you take care of yourself, then only you can take care of your child. So these are the elements or factors which will complete your estate plan. And this is a very, very important document, not a legal document, but it creates a vision for the future for your child. And it also helps knowing, all the stakeholders or all other people, what is required, but for example, and I always ask this question, that if you have to leave your child to a neighbor for 4 hours, what instruction will you give it to them? Now extend it to 48 hours, what instruction will you give it to them? Can you give verbal instruction to a legal guardian who will manage your child affairs after you? Probably no, and it's really difficult. So what document you can leave or what document you can prepare? And that's a letter of intent. The compilation of letter of intent is you write about your family, the living of your child, the residential needs of your child, healthcare, what has worked, what has not worked, social activities, your likes, dislikes of your child, his places of interest. Now, what this document do? This document tell legal guardian, tell trustees, make them more aware about your child requirement. Also tell them that this is not what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Plus, it also carries all important contacts of all the people involved in your child care: financial professional, legal professional, doctors, hospitals, everybody. And it becomes a good guiding resource for the person who is going to care for your child after your lifetime. And that's why letter of intent is important. Even when we have worked with so many families, and we found that even spouses are not aware about their child requirement. Why? Because if one is working and the second one is taking care of 24/7, then he or she is more aware about the child requirement. And when they write this letter of intent together, they are more aware, they know more about their child. Okay, I'll come to the ecosystem. So first, who are the stakeholders? So there is a legal guardian who is going to take care of personal needs or financial needs as you prepare your estate plan. There are trustees who will manage the financial affairs. There is a support, family members, friends, parents, community who will fulfill the above roles when in need. And there are service providers, institution, residential care, medical professionals, social organization, financial and legal profession. All these stakeholders are there. Now, one of the important, probably, the issues or, which we come across the question is that even if you form a trust and even if you appoint a legal guardian, the child is managed by residential care, how do you ensure that all of them work in sync with each other? All of them are aware about their role, and if a decision has to be made, then all of them are aware that why the decision has to be done. And that's where we found that, that an ecosystem should be prepared. Now, what is this ecosystem is all about? Now, this is an ecosystem where the trust is the major party. The trust is formed, and the trust set up contracts with service providers, with other professionals. It set up contracts for setting up a periodic review system. And the person who is looking after all the affairs, maybe the guardian or a protector, he is involved in all the decision making, and also he is getting periodic reports on how the child affair is being managed. Now, when you create this ecosystem, right, now in everybody knows that what role a guardian has to play, what role a service provider has to play, and everybody is aware of what's happening with the child affairs. So this ecosystem is important to ensure that you can set up a system which will ensure the security of your child care. Because even when you have a residential care, when the trust is there, when the legal guardian is there, now how much time they will communicate with each other? If they are not communicating on frequent basis, then suppose tomorrow a decision has to be taken, for example, in health emergency. Now, legal guardian has to sign the document, residential care will be providing the services, trust will be funding it. Now, if you have this ecosystem, everybody knows what's happening with the child care. But if not, then at that point of time, the legal guardian would like to know, how this has arises. The trust would like to know, all the funding which has happened previously. So this ecosystem helps you in creating a periodic review system for the child care, which ensures that all the stakeholders are in sync with each other. 10 golden rules. Lastly, incorporate child personal needs, living arrangement, education program, employment. So when you are preparing a financial plan, you have to incorporate your child needs. Review plan periodically. Write where will the child live. This question is important. It should be included in the plan. Do not give asset to the child directly, that we advise, because it will be left to the legal guardian to manage all the financials plus the personal affairs. Discuss with your loved ones on what needs to be done. Pen down your will and form the trust. Write a letter of intent. Take educate life and health insurance, and finally seek professional help. And do not unplanned if you do not have expertise anywhere. So do not leave things unplanned. Prepare it. Take an expert's help. We have developed some online calculators also. You can take help of those, and at least you can be prepared. You can be aware that what is your financial requirement. Certain mistakes to avoid: not declaring child disability in insurance scheme, that we have seen across families. Not planning for contingencies, not planning for own incapacity to work. What happens in that situation? Who will decide? Failures to plan for long-term care expenses, and planning everything through the will. Will is an important document, but will cannot replace a private trust or cannot replace certain other legal documents which you have to prepare. And any estate documents you create, it has to be reviewed periodically. And trustees, executors need to be appointed appropriately. And child needs, you have to communicate with key people. Letter of intent is a very, very good document to communicate it to, to the people whom you want for care of your special needs child. So summary: create the special financial plan, execute the special estate plan, select the special dream team. What is the team you require? Share your special plan with others, and be sure to take care of special you. Okay. Yes. So that's end of my presentation. Happy to take up question and answers.
Quite insightful, Mr. Jitendra, because a lot of us in our families, like with special needs, they tend to be confused. Many of our families, we still know that they are unaware that a will or having a trust or a guardianship is so very important once a child attains 18 years of age. Till now, many parents are not aware. They just think that बच्चा मेरे साथ में है तो मैं उसका guardian हूँ.
Yes, yes. Legal aspect, there is, I mean, laws are different completely. You have to, all these things you have to be aware of the law, what the law says.
Yes, it was quite insightful, sir, based on the various stages of a child and what all things have to be reviewed on those stages. As a child's needs are very different when it's a minor, when it goes to adulthood, then the living separately when the first parent is not there, when the second parent is not there. Very important, very insightful, because a lot of times we tend to fail to identify these things. And as a matter of fact, then when a contingency comes, then a parent doesn't know what to do.
Yes.
What we like to know from you, Mr. Jitendra, is, see, many a times in families, what we have noticed is only one person in the family takes the lead of, say, the financial aspect, okay? And in the event of an emergency or some unplanned event when it happens, then the other partner or other family members are unaware. So
Yes.
there has to be something, which needs to be kind of like a transparent solution, okay?
Mhm.
So that whether a person is there or not there, something like a system should follow. And because Because see, many times these investments are made, lot of money is put in, but then when you
Yes.
really require it, it's not there.
Yes.
What would be your advice in this situation, sir?
I think first of all, and I am getting advising on the experience we have seen, within the families. It's important that any financial decision or any decision you are taking for your child, both husband and wife are involved. So it's not necessary for so suppose husband is knowledgeable on finance, he's taking all decision. It's not necessary for the wife to know everything, but at least she should be aware that what's happening and what is the solution for this issue. Okay, and she should have an easy access to all these papers if something happens. But and this will only come when both the couples are involved in their child care, in taking these decisions. See, when it is taking a therapy, when the personal affair, both parents are involved. But when it comes to finances, then suddenly everything shifts to one parent. Okay, and second parent is not involved. Even if you as an individual are involved with the professional, you need to ensure that discussions your partner is involved. And when you have the documents with you, those documents are shared with your partner. Okay, I mean, without her involvement, is it very difficult but to suddenly the situation comes which you have spoken about. She would be unaware. Even if she have documents, she would be unaware. Okay, that what needs to be done. But if she has been involved in the decision making with her husband, or the second partner, then she would be more aware that what needs to be done in this situation. I think to me the best is that let both parents involved in any financial or legal decision you are making.
See, every time, we don't want the complete technical detail to be known by both. Okay,
Yes.
at
Yes.
least say a basic thing,
Yes.
because we have come across a lot of cases like with special needs,
Hmm.
wherein the spouse did not even know the passwords.
Ah,
A basic thing,
right.
and even there were investments which were done. Say,
Right.
for example, mutual funds. Okay,
Right. Right.
they were not informed. Okay, a lot of
Right.
money was being invested, and one fine day, the wife doesn't know, the mother
Right.
doesn't know,
Right.
where the investments are put in. So
Right.
if you do not know that investment where they are put in, so how do you redeem it when you don't know?
Yes. I think the solution to that is that you prepare an inventory of assets and all the document the way and so you can prepare a document and share it with your partner. See, without sharing it won't happen. How would somebody else know what are your password for Facebook, Instagram, or any bank account or anything? I think you prepare an inventory of these and share it. Don't share the complete financial plan, but at least share the financial information. Okay, and share it with your partner. Now when it is about creating an inventory of asset, then you can prepare. A lot of people do it only in Excel. Why not just to prepare in Excel? It's an easy to make. Okay, and share it with your partner. At least she knows, this is where your documents are lying. And that's the most important. Now like a letter of intent, we advise a letter of intent. You are writing everything and sharing it with the key people. Similarly, for your partner, you can create a small document, have all these written, and share it with your partner. So she will have an access to all these passwords of your social accounts, your bank accounts related information, other financial information. So I'm not saying share the complete financial plan, share a summary of that. This is what I have done, okay, and this is what you have to do. But without that, it is going to be difficult situation. Unless and until you share it, she won't able to know. And you can always share a summary of whatever you are doing, right? At least she knows where the document is lying. See, for somebody else to access it, I'm not saying share it all the password. Even if you have created a file, you have created a password, share the resource of that to your partner. She would know where all the document is lying, and it's an easy accessible to her. Similarly, your mutual fund statement, Now, in today's world, all your investment can be on one single platform. If you have that, just share the password, to your partner. So that sharing has to happen. So instead of sharing all technicalities, all things, should share a summary of all these, with your partner. That would ease out the solution to a situation where she has to take, a sudden decision, and she needs accessibility to all your documents. So it's an easy accessibility which is required. You can keep your document as secure as you want, but have that resource share with your partner, at least where that document is lying.
Exactly, because see, myself being a parent, I can really associate with other parents, okay, as to how important these things are, especially now in the times of Corona. A lot of uncertain things are happening around us. So
Yes,
it is always better to be prepared. Secondly,
yes,
about the will, what you have mentioned, it is such a very important document because see, what we generally do, we take things for granted. कि कुछ नहीं
yes,
होगा.
yes,
Okay. Now we cannot rely on statements that nothing is going to happen. So we need to have something concrete. Okay, something at least as per what you rightly advised, that people from your immediate family or your maybe your closest friend, those who are in synergy with you, with your life, as when your kids are growing, who can understand your kids. If this sharing is done, then those people will be the right people who will help the child tomorrow when you're not there.
yes, yes, certainly.
So what happens, in terms of see, nowadays, even if you have someone who is trustworthy, okay, in the
Hmm,
will,
hmm,
probably sometimes later, the trust things doesn't stay
hmm,
in the practical matter, what I'm saying. Okay.
hmm,
And
hmm,
in terms of conflicts in the members in the will, okay,
hmm,
then what
hmm.
happens, how are these addressed?
Okay. See, first of all, why will is important is because, it's a very clear that if you are not going to make a decision, the law will take a decision. Okay. Now, what is written in the law is not what you want. You have got a special child and you have got a sibling also, right? Now you want to spare more for your special child because of his special, requirement. Now, the law does not have any provision for this. The law does not have any provision of distribution of your asset to any, such member. The law simply says distribute everything equally between, the legal hires. And law also does not have any, immediate provision for legal guardianship. I know if you do not have a will, somebody will have to go to the court and take a legal guardianship. Now, all these are very lengthy matters. That's why, to avoid all these, to avoid your family, going through all these lengthy legal procedures, will is a very, very important document. It's your wish, what you want. And in the eyes of law, if the distribution will happen according to your will. Now, yes, there is also a standing, that will can be challenged by anybody, right? But in that case, you have certain other provision also. I just give you an example. Now, today life insurance has got a beneficial nominee concept. Now, who is a beneficial nominee? Now, the beneficial nominee is one who will inherit that proceeds of that life insurance, and other legal heirs cannot claim that money. So in those situations where, that will might go for a dispute, you can have this provision coming in, so the life insurance proceed will go directly to your child. Okay, will not be part of your will. So you need to look at these kind of provisions where, certain aspects might not be included in the will. Okay. And yes, the trust formation is always there, that if the funds are in the trust, then whether will goes into a dispute or not, that the trust funding won't impact it. So the trust will continue manage the child affairs, irrespective of what's happening in the will. So these are certain provisions, and that's why, that why this becomes important, because these are legal provisions, right? And simply not having these documents or not having these provision won't help, because at the end of the day, everything will happen through the what the law says if you do not make a provision. Okay, but yes, you have these provisions, to take advantage of these provisions.
Also, with your experience, what would you advise when we are having, say, the legal trustees? What
Mhm.
should be the ideally age bracket kind of like, because see, when we are saying that what after us,
Mhm.
okay, so probably like, if we go in for a very senior age person,
Mhm.
okay, and automatically what happens that from the three trustees, it may come down to two trustees.
Yes. Yes.
Have you come across such kind of a scenario, and what would you advise?
So largely, one is that when you are identifying trustees, yes, I do agree. Having senior people as a trustee won't last much long. The similar question we ask for ourselves will also come in. But and one is, don't depend on only on two trustees. Two trustees also is not a viable solution, because if one of the trustees not there, the other trustee have to identify some other trustees. Okay, if there are three trustees and one is a senior and probably the two are much younger in age, that can be a workable solution. Okay, that can be a workable solution. And we always say to families that uh, don't make it such a pressure game on yourself. Trustees can be changed, new trustees can be appointed, trustees can be removed, so you have a flexibility in your private trust. So today, take a decision which is viable in today's situation. Take your time, identify people you have, and trustees, there is no foundation. You can go beyond your family members, you can have professionals, you can have friends, you can have distant relatives also. So trustees, there is no legal foundation. So take your time, identify people. Okay, and have a combination of so maybe a family member, a friend, and a professional. A combination of these is the most workable solution in a private trust, rather than just looking at only family members as private trustees. To me, that's not a workable solution in the long term.
Okay. Uh, One more thing we'd like to ask you, Mr. Jitendra, is suppose a trust is formed, okay? Are there different kinds of trust, for a child with special needs? Because what happens, like, one is the child has an immediate family who forms a trust, okay? Now, they also have extended families who will like to contribute towards a trust, okay,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
after the parent is not there, or maybe at the immediate this thing. So are there kind of any sort of rebates or some kind of a tax implications or something, or is there that the trust has to be like a charitable trust or something?
Okay. First of all, it is not a charitable trust. It's a private trust. Okay, because you are forming a trust for one individual beneficiary, and when it comes to one individual beneficiary, you form a private trust. A charitable trust where beneficiaries are not known, public at large is the beneficiary. So it's a private family trust. Now, the treatment of private family trust, though it's an entity in itself, but it's an arrangement where the trustees do not own the assets, the settler do not own the assets, and the beneficiary is taking advantage, benefit of the trust. Now, when it comes to gifting the money to the trust, then the laws of individual will apply or for the beneficiary. So anyone from the blood relatives, which is identified under Income Tax Act, who are all the blood relatives, they can donate money to the trust, without any tax implication. Beyond those blood relative, any of the money gifted, then you will have a tax implication, on the trust beyond 50,000 annually. So there is a tax implication beyond blood relatives. Within blood relatives, the tax implication won't be there for the trust.
Okay, any special message or something you would like to convey, to our viewers, sir, with your experience, like,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So my own, message to all the families is that don't leave things unplanned for the future, that you are going to plan it, at a certain event or at a certain life stage. whatever life stage you are, plan it today. And if anybody is in a mind, what is the first document I should prepare, today, I think letter of intent, go for it, prepare it. It will clear most of your thoughts also, and it will also provide a good resource for the future guardian trustees. Okay, but do not procrastinate, do not leave things unplanned. Whatever way you want to plan, start planning today. Okay, we are building online calculators, you can take help of all those calculators, and you can at least start planning. But my only message is start planning today. It takes time to build assets, it takes time to build corpus for the future. Okay, and most of the families we have interacted with are on the verge of retirement, and we are finding that the money they want to leave behind or they need for their child and for them is short because the planning was not done. So whatever life stage you are, start planning today.
Very, very insightful. And now, sir, the trust now, it is only formed through the National Trust or any other entity?
No, the National Trust Act is not for private formation of private trust. It's named as National Trust Act. It is mainly for legal guardianship and other issues. For a private family trust, you have to hire a professional. So our organization help families in formation of a private trust, and also we as an organization manage the trust also once the trust is formed. So you need a professional for formation of a private trust. So seek the help of a professional. You might have a good lawyer in your network who would be able to form a private trust. Okay, so seek the help of a professional. It's a private family trust. National Trust Act won't come into picture.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Jitendra, for your valuable time.
Thank you, Brian.
Quite insightful, to give so much of contribution. And we hope, that families also adhere to the advices that we have given. And thanks a lot. Over to you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Som.